Howdy, hi. It is Do Your Job Sports College Football Week 8 Picks and Predictions Part 2. Let's get into this week's picks. All right, so like I said, this is Part 2. There is already a Part 1 where I gave out the first 8 bets. A decent amount of those lines have already moved. So these lines continue to change. Just like on this page, Purdue opened up at plus 29.5. The line has already dropped to Purdue plus 27. And I'm still hopping on it. So we'll talk about the games for this week. Let's get into it. All right, first one we're taking, it is Miami heading to Louisville. I'm going to take Miami -4. We are going to continue the fade of Louisville. They have not covered the spread in 3 straight games. We have been betting against them all 3 of those games. I really don't think Louisville is that good. Miami coming off of a crazy comeback win against Cal. That was at Cal. And then after that one, they got a bye week. Miami, they have the best ranked offense in college football, averaging 595 yards a game. Granted, they have played some absolute cupcakes towards the beginning half of the season. They've only really been challenged in 2 games. The rest of the games they played have just been absolute pure domination because they've played dog shit teams. However, Louisville averaging 474 a game, but they have not scored more than 27 points in their last 3 games. Just like Miami, Louisville played 2 horrible teams in their first few weeks. I think it was like Austin Pay and then some other horrible school where they were able to drop 60 on them. So those 2 games don't really count. In terms of can their offense actually score against good teams, the answer for Miami is yes. The answer for Louisville is so far not really. The maximum they've scored is 27 points in the last 3 games. That's not good. That's probably not going to get it done against this Miami offense. Miami also has the much better defense, only giving up 300 yards a game compared to the 350 that Louisville gives up a game. I watched Louisville in their last few games. I've watched them since they played Notre Dame. The thing I've realized is their quarterback, who is 25 years old, mind you, if you're still a college quarterback at 25, it means one thing. You are good enough to play in college, but not at the NFL. Therefore, you probably still shouldn't be playing college football at 25 unless you're going for your doctorate in some brain surgeon nonsense. He's not good. He can't leave the pocket. He's like 6'2", white, unathletic, kind of fat to be honest with you. He's not good. I don't like him. I think Miami rolls. Give me the Heisman favorite. I'm only getting him at -4. Yes, please. I'll take that all day. Louisville continues to lose. Next game, talked about it a little bit with the plus 27. It opened up at plus 29.5. Obviously, all of the public is on Purdue here. In terms of numbers don't really matter in this game. Everybody in the country just saw Oregon beat Ohio State in prime time Saturday night. One of the best college football games of the year, other than Alabama and Georgia, and then Alabama Vandy. That was also a banger. But we all saw what happened. Now it is time for the greatest letdown spot in the history of all sports. If you've been watching college football for a long time, you know that after a team has a big win, you have to bet against them the next week, especially if they're on the road. And here we get the perfect instance to do it. It is Oregon at Purdue. I'm taking Purdue plus 27. Oregon, letdown spot. Purdue, this is going to be one of 2 Super Bowls for them. They have Oregon at home this week, and then in 2 weeks they have Penn State at home. But I don't think they'll be able to do anything against Penn State defense. So I'm going to take them here. Purdue, one of the worst defenses in the country. Oregon, obviously a great offense. So in terms of any statistic you're going to look at, the numbers are just going to tell you to hammer Oregon State. But from a purely betting perspective, and if you've been betting college football for a while, you know what I'm talking about. You cannot lay this number. It's not allowed. This goes against everything one should know about college football. So like I said, letdown spot for Oregon. Purdue actually just played a really close game against Illinois. They lost in overtime 49-50, and that's because they went for 2. I mean, when you're 1-5, or I guess 1-4 at the time, it really doesn't matter if you win or lose any more games. Your season's basically done for. So you might as well go for 2 on the road, try to win the game. I do not blame Purdue at all for doing that. So I'm going to take Purdue plus 27 at home. Basically, their Super Bowl of the year. So we're going to fade the Ducks after a big win against Ohio State. Next game we're looking at, it is University of Kentucky headed to Florida. I'm going to take the under of 42.5. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I do not bet unders. Period, point blank, end of story. But when I saw this line, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to have to take the under in this one. Florida at home, taking on Kentucky, going against a top defense who just held, who they held? I think they held Georgia to 12 points like 3 weeks ago, and then Florida just held Tennessee to 17 points in regulation. So both of these teams' defenses firing on all cylinders. The under in this game has hit in every single one of Kentucky's games this season, besides one, just uno, and it has hit in each of Florida's last 2 games. Neither of these teams can score quick. If you watch either of these two teams play football, you're going to sit there and be like, wow, that was a sweet 11-yard run. Oh, cool. That was a nice 4-yard halfback pitch to the outside. Oh, sweet. A 7-yard slant route across the middle. My dick is hard. This is great football. I really enjoy watching this. It's just two really boring football teams who like to punt the ball, run 6-yard out routes, and then finish the score with 14-10 in just a fucking boring football game. Also, don't mind Kentucky +2. That is what I originally took here looking at it, but then I was like, every single time I bet against Florida, they end up winning the game. So I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to take the under 42.5. I think this is one of the most boring football games of the season. It's probably going to be horrible. Next game, Arizona State +3 at Cincinnati. Arizona State coming off of a big win at home against Utah. Cincinnati was barely able to beat a UCF team that had a first-time starting quarterback. I like the Sun Devils here. I think they continue to roll in this game. Both of these teams, top 75 offenses in the country, averaging 425 and 470 yards a game. But it's kind of what the defenses are doing here that distinguishes one good team and one not so good team. Arizona State ranked 75th in the country, giving up just 337 yards a game. Cincinnati has one of the worst defenses in the Big 12 and one of the bottom tier defenses in all of college football, giving up 420 yards a game. Congratulations to you if you celebrate 420. Light it up. Now, I watched both of these teams play recently, and I think Arizona State is going to be able to hold Cincinnati quite well. Cincinnati only able to score 19 points at UCF. That game was horrible. Their quarterback had, I think, 2 interceptions. They had fumbles. Cincinnati just turns the ball over too much. Arizona State defense will be able to take advantage of that. We saw that against Utah when they picked off Cam Rising twice, able to hold Utah to a low number and win that game straight up. So I think if you can beat Utah at home with a solid defense, you can definitely beat University of Cincinnati on the road with that same defense. So I'm going to take Sun Devils +3. I like this one a decent amount. Next game, this one's interesting. I'm taking Colorado +3.5 on the road at Arizona. Colorado coming off of a loss at home to Kansas State, but they covered for us last week as we had them +6 or 6.5. So we're going to run it back this week in a matchup against Arizona, who has lost 3 out of their last 4 games straight up. These two teams very similar in defensive and offensive ranks. I think this one really depends on the status of Travis Hunter, if he suits up or not. I like it if he does play. I don't like it as much if he does not play, but I'm still going to bet it regardless. Travis Hunter went out in the previous game, I think midway through the second quarter, with a shoulder injury against Kansas State. He's currently listed as questionable, but considering Travis Hunter is a tough ass dude and he plays both offense and defense, I do not think he's going to sit for this matchup against Arizona. Colorado needs to start winning some of these games if they want to finish with a good record. So I think he plays here. These two teams are ranked 66th and 71st in offense, averaging 430, 423 yards a game. Defenses are also very similar, giving up 400 and 370 yards a game. I really think this is a coin flip between these two schools, and if Travis Hunter does end up playing, I'm going to give the edge to Colorado. Considering I'm getting 3.5 points with Colorado, when I think this is a coin flip, I'm going to have to take the team getting points. I trust Deion. I think Deion's actually a really good coach. If you watch his team, they're pretty well disciplined for a young program that he just took over a few years ago. His son's a quarterback, and I think he's one of the best in the Big 12. He has another son on the team who sucks ass. He should not be playing football. That dude's horrible. We ain't going to talk about that, though. I'm just going to take Colorado +3.5. I have faith in Deion, and I think Travis Hunter suits up. So that's the angle on that game. Next game, this is an interesting one. I think this is a Tuesday night game or a Wednesday night game. I kind of forget. I am taking Louisiana Tech minus 10.5 and the over of 50.5. New Mexico State, one of, if not the worst teams in college football. Louisiana Tech just won a game by 27 at home where they rested their starters the entire fourth quarter. The reason I say that is both of these teams coming off of very short weeks. Louisiana Tech played Thursday of last week. New Mexico State played Wednesday of last week. So they're getting 5 and 6 days of rest. There's going to be tired bodies all over the field in this game. Louisiana Tech offense averages 381 yards a game compared to New Mexico State, who has one of the worst offenses in college football, averaging just 295 yards a game. If you watched New Mexico State play last week against Jacksonville State, you would have realized they do not have a quarterback who can throw the football over 20 yards. They just run the ball, and then do like a 12-yard out route where the quarterback overshoots or sails the receiver by like 10 yards out of bounds. It is actually disgusting to watch them play football. It is horrendously bad. LA Tech defense, 56th in the country, only giving up 323 yards a game compared to New Mexico, who again, just one of the worst football teams in every statistical measure you can find. They're ranked 252nd in college football, giving up 481 yards a game. New Mexico State just lost to Jacksonville State by 41 points. They don't have a QB who can throw the ball more than 20 yards. I don't understand how this line is only 10.5. If you would have told me this line was 17, I still probably would have taken it. I think Louisiana Tech can cover this 50.5 over by themselves. Legitimately, LA Tech is live to score 60 points here. I don't see how New Mexico State can do anything in this football game. Give me LA Tech minus 10.5, and then give me the over of 50.5. All right, go La Tech. Next game, another weird one which I don't understand. UCLA at Rutgers. Give me Rutgers minus 6.5. Rutgers at home here to take on one of, if not the worst teams in the Big Ten. It's either UCLA or Purdue. You can just do a coin flip. It really don't matter. UCLA has to travel across the country again, even though they just did it 2 weeks ago for Penn State. I really don't understand this Big Ten scheduling. UCLA went to Penn State, then flew back to California. They played Minnesota, and now they're going all the way to Rutgers. Why not just have them play Penn State, play Rutgers, and then go back home and play 2 home games? How are you going to make a team travel literally to the opposite ends of the country twice in 2 weeks? That it makes no sense. You give them no time to practice, no time to actually play football. It's just traveling and doing whatever homework your personal tutors couldn't do for you. Now, that being said, UCLA offense, one of the worst in college football, probably because they can't fucking practice, being ranked 238th, averaging 293 yards a game. Rutgers, they were middle of the pack, ranked 119th, averaging 383 yards a game. Now, you add on top of that the fact that Rutgers is coming off of one of the worst losses in program history at home. I think they lost by like 41 points at home to Wisconsin. This is a major bounce back spot for them against an atrociously bad UCLA team. Neither of these defenses are anything to write home about, giving up 370 and 380 yards a game. I'm really just trusting the Rutgers offense more than I do UCLA's, and the fact that UCLA has to travel across the country again after losing a home game to Minnesota by 4 points in a game that they really should have won. So I'm going to take Rutgers here. I think UCLA's already given up on the season. They suck. They don't want to travel to Rutgers. They just want to stay home and go enjoy the beach. So give me Rutgers minus 6.5. Then in the next game, it is Houston and Kansas. I'll be taking Houston plus 6.5. All right, so here we got 2 teams who are having horrible seasons in the Big 12. Houston 2-4, Kansas 1-5. Both of these teams are going to have to start thinking about playing underclassmen, and that is exactly what Houston did in its previous win against TCU. So Houston coming off of a bye week after they beat TCU. They promoted Zion Chris to starting quarterback, who was an underclassman, a dual threat QB, ran for 100 yards on TCU in their 30-19 win. Kansas only one win on the season that was week 1 against Lindenwood. They've lost every single game since, and they have done so with every single game being within 11 points. Kansas could easily be, well, not easily, but there's a world somewhere in some planet where Kansas is 6-0 right now, straight up. If you're going to lose all your next 5 games by 11 points, I mean, you could argue, you could point to a few plays in each game where you're like, hey, if we just don't do this dumbass shit, we win this football game. So I think this is going to be a really good game. Houston, their young quarterback's first real road test. Although he played great in game 1, rushing for 100 yards, offense was able to put up 30 points on him. This game should be very close. Houston defense ranked 41st in the country, giving up 305 yards a game compared to Kansas's defense, who was ranked 137th in the country, giving up 373 yards a game. So I think the Houston defense is going to be able to step up here, help their young, I think he's a sophomore quarterback out, maybe a freshman, not 100% sure. But I like Houston in the points. If you're going to tell me Kansas has lost 5 straight games that have fewer than 11 points straight up, and you're giving me Houston 6.5 with a new looking offense and a great defense behind them, I'm going to take Houston plus 6.5. And that is going to wrap it up for me and this video. If you have not already, there is a part 1 of this video that I posted last night, which will be linked in the clip card at the end of this video. I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and the like, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Peace.